Welcome to this website how-to video and congratulations on your new website. We hope this is helpful as you navigate your new WordPress site, but of course if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to anybody from the Paul Gregory Media team. So whenever you start, you're actually going to go up to your search bar and you're going to plug in the name of your domain, and then right after that you're going to put /WP WP-admin. You'll click enter. And once you do that, you'll be taken to this login screen. Everyone should have their own credentials, but if you have issues finding those or you can't remember the password, feel free to let us know. My username and password is already populated, so we're just going to go ahead and log in. You can also choose the Remember Me option if you'd like your computer to remember it, so you don't have to. Okay, so now we are taken to the dashboard. This is kind of the main hub of the back end of your website. So for you all, I'm just going to go through a couple of key areas and then show you a couple specific areas that is unique to your website. So to start with the more general areas, this is your dashboard. This is something that you can customize based on your viewing needs. We just have it set up with site health at a glance, but if you wanted to go in and update the elements, you can do that here. Just check them on and off. And that's your dashboard. The next area we're going to take a look at is your users. So users is where you're going to go if you ever need to add a new user to the back end of the website. So you'll see everybody here. So if you wanted to add a new person, you just go to add new user and you fill out all of the fields here. Username, I usually just put your email. And then first and last name, you don't have to put the website. They can generate a password for you, which is really nice. And then down here, the two important areas. Go ahead and keep this unchecked. If you don't want the person to receive an email, sometimes it's just not necessary. But if you do want to make sure that they receive an email so that they can change their password, then make sure that this is checked on. And then this is where you have all of the different types of roles for the back end of your website. You have administrator here and then a bunch of others that are categorized based on what elements of the back end they will see. So for example, if you have someone that's just an author, they won't be able to see every single area on the back end of your site that you can see on this left-hand side. But if you're an admin like we are, you can see everything. So if it's easier just to give people administrative access, you would just do admin and then you click add new user. And that is the user section. So the next area we're going to take a look at is Divi. So Divi, again, is the theme builder that we use to create the design of your website. The main thing that I want to show you here, as you can see, there's a bunch of different things that you can choose. If you like what you have so far, I would just leave this as is. But one thing that we definitely want to show you is the integration tab, which can be seen right here. And when you click that, it pulls up the header and the body text areas of the back end of your website. So if you ever choose to end up putting a Google Analytics account together, it will need to have you create a code, and then that code would go in this area. So whether it's Google Analytics, Google Ads, Facebook ads, any sort of website related tracking pixel code that might be necessary, this is where you would add that in. You would paste it right here, and then you'd make sure you scroll down to click Save Changes. And that's the biggest area with this part of the Divi section of your website. So now we're going to go into plugins. And plugins are basically add-ons or apps that we use in order to give your website certain functionality. So for example, Divi is a plugin, so you can see some of the different Divi plugins that we've added. We also have quite a bit of different GiveWP related plugins, which we'll get into that a little bit in the future. And this is where all of those live. So if you ever wanted to add a new plugin, what you would do is go to the top and click Add New Plugin. And then you would have all these plugins you could look for. If there's a specific one that you want to find, you would put it in the search plugins. So let's pretend that you just need a 301 redirect plugin. We already have one, but let's pretend that you don't. I would just put 301 redirects. And then you would see all the options that we have and click it. So I'll just do this one, 301 redirects. You do install now. And then once you install it, there will be a question asking if you want to activate the plugin. So you would click activate as well. I don't want to do that just because I don't want to add another plugin, but that's how the plugins work. So now we're going to go over here to posts. And just so you know, this is where you would go if you ever wanted to start a blog. Your blog would go in the post section. And if you wanted to add a new one, you would just go to the top and click add new post. And then you would put all of the information necessary here. So this is where you'd put the text, the title, and then any categories that you create would be living here. Next, we're going to go take a look at the media library. Media library is where any of your images, videos, PDFs live that are currently on your website. So if you're ever needing to look for an image, you can find it here. Whenever you're adding a new media file, you would click this top button, or you can just drag whatever photo that you have into the media library and it will automatically upload. Whenever it does, you'll see this little window pop up, and this is where you can put an alt text. So if you're wanting to do SEO initiatives, you would put whatever text you need there. And this is the title of the image. Usually it'll just pull whatever the title of the actual, whether it's a JPEG or PNG or PDF, it'll just pull whatever that file title is into here. And the reason why it's important to know that is because if you ever have a bunch of images or PDFs like we do here and you're trying to find one in particular, you can always search for it at the top. So if I were to search for logo, I can't find the original file, the logo. I can go ahead and search it up here, and now we can see all the different file names with the word logo in there. So that's just something to know if you think you might be uploading lots of pictures and you want to be organizing ahead of time. Now we're going to take a look at pages, and this is where you're going to go whenever you're wanting to access the back end of one of your pages. You don't have to access it in this way if you're just trying to make back end updates. There is another way that you can access the front end Divi Builder in a different way that I'll show you in a little bit. But if you're wanting to just make small little updates, this is another way that you can do that page. And this is where you can see all the different pages are. So if I wanted to make an update, let's just say I go to Contact Us. You are brought to this screen, and then you can see kind of what looks like a big table here. And what this is the wireframe view of the website. So this is basically just showing you broken down with blocks the structure of that page. You can just go right in and you'll see that it's organized based on section and then row and then the elements. So that might be a button, that might be a slider, text, a blurb, some piece of code. And you can definitely access these areas here. You can just click the gear icon and then update anything from here. But this can kind of get confusing, especially if you have a big page. So what we would do is recommend building on the front end. So after we click that button, we're going to go to the front end of the page, which is going to be a lot more of a visual building tool for you, which is one of the reasons why we really like using Divi with our websites. So now that we've done that, we are taken to the contact page. This is exactly what people are seeing on the front end, and it's nice because then any of the updates you make on the page, you're seeing them live and you're getting an idea of how they're going to translate on the front end of your website. So whenever you hover over these, you'll see that these little boxes show up. So that's that structure that I had mentioned before. So the top one being your section, that's the main grouping, and then a row, which is here, and then an element, which is the gray. And so what you would do, there's a couple different buttons here that I want you to pay note of. This is a little cursor button, and this just lets you move the element around. If you want to put it, below the form, let's just say, then you can do that. If we go back to the top, we'll see this gear icon. So this is where you would go if you want to update the text add a hyperlink, if you want to change the background color, and that's under the content button. Under the design button, this is where you would update maybe the font color of the text or change the size of it. So if I did text and I wanted to make it purple, boom, it is now purple. And I'm going to go ahead and remove that. This is also where you could, again, change the size so you can bump it up as much as you want. We recommend just keeping it the size that it is though. And whenever you do add like a new piece of text, you'll see it will automatically populate with these saved presets. But this is where you would find any of those design elements if you wanted to make it center aligned, anything like that. Sizing is where you would go to make the element itself bigger. So with text, this isn't really a good example to show you, but if you have an image and you want the image to be a little bit bigger on the page, this is where you would control that. Spacing is if you ever wanted to fix anything with your margin or your padding. As you can see here, we have a little bit of padding on the top and the bottom of this element. So this is just where you would go to add that. If you wanted to add a border, you could, a shadow, any filters, this is where you would go for that. The advanced tab is going to have things like your CSS IDs, your classes, different visibilities, and scroll effects. So I'm going to show you that. A scroll effect meaning that whenever you're scrolling on the page, a fun animation appears. And this is where you could choose what that would be. So we have it on a vertical motion, but if you wanted to be coming in horizontally, you could click this. You could have it fade in and fade out. There's a bunch of different things that you could have, but this is where you would change that. So any design choices or content choices that you make, you always want to make sure that before you exit out, you click this green button. That kind of locks in the saves that you made. So we'll do that. And I'll go back and show you this little boxy icon is the duplicate module. So this just does exactly what you think. It duplicates that element. If we go here, this shows you the save module to library. So if you want to save it as like a global element for your website, you would do that here. The trash can is obviously to delete, and then there's a couple extra settings in these in this panel with the 3 dots that I do want to show you. The main one being the disable. So this is where you can make an element, a row, or a section mobile or desktop responsive. So right now, if I click disable, this means that I don't want this element to appear on either of these 3. So they're all green right now, which means that right now, whether you're looking at this page on your desktop, on a tablet, or on your mobile phone, you'll be able to see this element with the text. But if I didn't want this to show up on mobile, I would just click the icon, and when it turns red, that lets you know that now this will not show up for people looking at the page on a phone. Another thing just I really like doing, it makes designing a little bit quicker, is that you can copy a module style or a module. So if you want to make this same exact design settings that you used, the same thing on a different page, you can click copy module styles. And then when you go over to the new page element, there'll be somewhere around here, it'll say paste module styles, and it will automatically paste the same exact format as the module that you chose. So once you make all of your updates here, you're going to click this purple circle at the bottom. And whenever you do that, you'll see a couple things that show up that I want to show you. So this is that wireframe view that I was seeing on the back end whenever I first checked out the website. You can go back and forth from here if you wanted to. These are basically just different viewpoints. The other ones I want to show you is the desktop view, which is what you typically are editing on. But if you want to make sure that any design choices that you made are going to look nice on your mobile, you would just go ahead and click that phone icon, and it will show you a view of what it looks like on a mobile phone. Once you're done making all of your edits, you're going to click save. But before we do that, there is one more thing that I want to show you, and that's this button right here, the editing history. This is really nice because if you decide after making a bunch of edits that you just don't like the look of the page and you just want to revert it back to how it was before you started, this is where you can go. It will log all of the different edits that you made. And if you click on one of them, then it will revert the design back to what it was at that time. And it shows the timestamps for you as well. This is really nice. It's so that you don't have to keep hitting Command Z or Control Z and just waiting for things to go back. This is just a much quicker way to do that. Okay, so once we make all of our changes, you're going to click Save right here at the bottom. And you have to make sure you click this button or else none of the things that you worked on will save. Even if you check that green box with the check mark, you still have to hit this button below. And once you're done with that, you can go up to the Exit Visual Builder and it will take you automatically to the front end of this page. So now you're viewing and navigating the website as if you were a front-end user. So now that we've talked about pages a little bit and kind of going through the different design elements, let's take a look at the last two things that I want to show you all. So the first one being this events area right here. This events section is where all of the calendar events live on your website. So if you want to edit these, this is where you'll go. Whenever you want to make a new event, you can do this in two ways. One, you can click the Add New Event at the top here. Two, you can hover over one of your current events and click Duplicate. And Duplicate is nice because if you have an event that's basically the same, just there's a couple things are different, maybe the venue changed, but it's a similar event that you had in the past, then you can do this and it will save you time entering all that data in. One thing I want to show you is the quick edit. This is something that shows up for your posts, your events, and your pages. And I think it's important to know. When you do quick edit, this gives you the opportunity to make just small changes to a page without necessarily going into the editor. So for example, if you wanted to update the title, you could do that here. If you wanted to update the slug, which this is the back end of the URL. So if I did Riverwalk adultdayservices.org / this, then this is the exact page URL that people will be brought to. This is where you'd go for that. If you want to make a page or a post or anything password protected, this is where you would put that password. Other things with the events, which I think also shows up with the posts as well, is that you can easily change the event categories right here and add any tags. Lastly, right here in the quick edit, if there's a page, let's say that is currently published on your website, it's live, but you don't want people to see it because you want to make changes to it, you can go down to this status and click draft. And then that way you can easily make that no longer live on your website. So that's a quick edit function. Now let's go ahead and show you how to create a new event. I'm going to go ahead and use the top Add New button. And this will show all the different fields, very similar to a post that I need to put in. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the name of my event. And then this is where you can put any specific details that you want to show. So we'll say $10 entrance fee. And we'll say no registration required. You do not have to put information here if you don't want to. The next area is probably the most important, and that's setting up all your time and date information and location information. So this is where you would go ahead and do that. You just click the day that you're having it and the time frame. So we'll just say mine is from 9:30 to noon, and that will go for the same day. Now, if you have an event that's basically all day, like Giving Tuesday, for example, you could click this button and it will just show, instead of timestamps, it'll just show the full day as being an event. I'm going to uncheck that. And now we're going to show you how to do recurring events. So in order to do that, you'll go down to this button and you'll click Schedule Multiple Events. So let's just say that this fundraiser is actually going to occur monthly. What I would do is go to the Happens, which I like how this is laid out because it kind of speaks it to you what it is you're wanting this event to be. So I want this event to be something that happens once monthly on every Wednesday. So I'm going to go ahead and click this drop down and say happens. You have daily, weekly, here's monthly. And it happens once a month, so every 1 month. But if you had an event that was bi-monthly or bi-weekly, this is where you could put that number. Every 1 month on the, we can say 5th Thursday, this is going to be dependent on the day that you chose up here. So if, let's just say this is the 5th Thursday of the week, right? Not every single month has a 5th Thursday. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're doing things like a monthly event. But as you can see, if I were to do a weekly event instead, it'll show certain days. The one problem with the Events Calendar Pro plugin is that for recurring events, you can choose multiple days. So let's say it's Monday and Thursday at 9:30 to noon. You can choose multiple weekly days. However, if you have our fundraiser, let's say, on a Thursday at 9:30 to noon, and it also meets on Saturdays, but instead of starting at 9:30, it starts at 11:30 and goes until 2 o'clock p.m., you are going to have to create a whole new event for that. So just keep that in mind. So we'll go back to doing monthly every month on, we'll say, the last Thursday of the month instead of the 5th Thursday. This is where you can choose if it ends. So if you have a series of events going on with a specific end date, then you can put right here that it ends on and then the date or after a certain number of days. But this is never going to end for us in the near future, so we'll go ahead and just keep that as never. As you're building out your recurring event, you'll see that there's a sentence that's being built at the bottom. So again, this is just communicating back to you the type of recurring event you're creating to make sure that it's being logged correctly. So as we're seeing, an event every month that begins at 9:30 on the last Thursday, starting on the 30th, and repeating indefinitely. That's exactly what we want. If you had an exception that you wanted to add for your recurring event, you would add it here. So for example, if the last Thursday of the month of December is Christmas, let's just say, then you could add an exception saying that it's not going to happen on that day. But we do not have to worry about that, so we're just going to delete. Next, if you wanted to put more granular information like the location and the organizers, this is where you would do that. So location, we have a couple of them created already for you, but if you wanted to create a new location, you would just put that right here and click enter. The next thing, organizers, who's organizing the event? More often than not, it's probably going to be Riverwalk Adult Day Services. But if you do have a third-party event that's taking place at your building that you want to credit another organizer, you could put their name here and click enter. Similarly, let's just say that this event, there's a $10 fee, and while you don't have to register, you do have to pay $10. If you wanted to put a link to the event website where people could purchase a ticket online, you could put that here, but you don't have to put this here if you don't have anything. Once you're all done, you're going to scroll to the right side. If there's an image with the event that you want to include, you would just click Set Featured Image, and it will take you to your media library, where you can then click it and add it in. As we scroll up, we'll see that there's event categories on the right side. You can always add a new one if you'd like to, but this is just a way to help your viewers understand all the different types of events that are going on. So we'll say it's an outing. And once you're done, you would publish your event and it will show up on your calendar. So the last thing that we are going to take a look at before we sign off is this donations area. So this is the GiveWP plugin. This is where you go for anything revolving around your online donations. So when you click that, you're immediately taken to the All Forms section, which shows all the different types of donation forms that you have. So for us, we actually have a couple. We have a donation form, but we also have the sponsor forms integrated in this area. So this is what all those are. If you ever needed the short code for one of these forms, you can find it right here. If you double click on it, you can copy that. And let's just say that we want to make some edits. we can go ahead and click either the name here or just this edit button. And this will take us into the settings of that specific form. You can update your primary color, you can update the font, the display header, any of the messaging that you see, like the description or the main title, you can put here. This is where you would update the background image on the first panel of the form. And some of the other areas for the copy is where you could edit this. On the left-hand side, you'll see a bunch of different settings that you can update. So if you wanted to update your donation options, put that there's an option to do recurring donations, you could put that here. If you wanted to have the donor be the one to choose the recurring time period, or the options for how frequent it is, this is where you would do that. Also, if you scroll down, this is where you can find all the different predetermined donation levels. This is just the options that they have if they just want to make a quick donation and not think about the price. So if you ever wanted to change these, then this is where you would do that. And that's the main thing that I want to point you to on this end of the form. A lot of the other settings can be updated in this settings tab right here on the left. But one thing just to note is that if you ever wanted to have a specific donation goal, then this is where you would enable that. Once you make all the form updates, you could click update on the right hand side. And then if you want to go ahead and check out the form and check out all of the different updates that you just made, there is a way to go ahead and do that. One, you could just click this link and it will take you to that form, or you could click preview changes. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then you'll notice that it doesn't actually take you to a landing page. It just takes you to the form, which is nice so that you can see exactly what you updated. And this is where you can see how that looks. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you the settings. Settings is where you will go for all the very specific settings that you want to update across the board for all of your forms. So for example, payment gateways is where is one of the tabs that lives here. So if you ever wanted to switch over to Square instead of Stripe, this is where you would update that. If you ever wanted to disable being able to make an offline donation, this is where you would check that off. If you ever wanted to test your form and make sure that they're not live yet for people to actually use, and for you to be able to make updates and pretend that you're the user and go through the form without actually submitting a monetary donation, you could disable your test mode here. Some other areas you should be aware of is the email section. So if you have certain emails that you want donors to be receiving, this is where you could edit those. So for example, this donation receipt, this is what they'll receive upon submitting a donation. This is where you'll see all that text lives. We went ahead and made sure that these were all updated for you, but if something comes up where you need to edit something, this is where that would be. There's also a tab for admin emails, as you'll see right here. This is all the emails that you'll get whenever new donations are made. It also shows on the recipients side right here who's going to be receiving those. And if you want to go ahead and edit who that is or add another person to that, you would put that right here and save your changes. The last thing that you should know is, again, we already went through and checked all these for you, but this is also where you could find PDF receipts, annual receipts, tributes, any of the licenses information that you might need, you can find in the settings. If there is any specific questions that you have, feel free to let us know. And the last thing with this donation plugin that I want to show you is the reports, because I know that that's definitely something that's going to be utilized. You'll go to reports under donations, and this is where you will see everything. So we'll just see, once you get donations, it should show up like this. So you'll see your revenue for that period, all of the different breakdowns of the donations that you're getting, and some other stats as well. And you can use this in order to gather all of that data. Alrighty, and that is the very brief overview of your website. So thanks so much for watching. And again, if there's anything that you have further questions about, please feel free to reach out to a PGM representative. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much.